When we say tokenization of assets, we're simply referring to the process of issuing a digital token that represents rights over an asset on a particular DLT or blockchain. Remember that blockchain is just one type of DLT. You do not necessarily have to tokenize assets using blockchain. You may use other types of DLT. But blockchains, especially public blockchains such as Ethereum, have become the de facto tokenization layer due to its ability to host smart contracts, which are self-executing code that automates transactions and enforces terms without the need for intermediaries. This functionality is crucial for tokenizing assets as it allows for the automation of issuance, trading, compliance, and management of digital assets. Additionally, public blockchains have large active developer communities that continue to build, innovate, and improve the ecosystem. This network effect has also made blockchain the de facto choice for tokenization. Almost any asset can be tokenized, and once tokenized, it becomes a digital asset. Tokenization is just a tool and back engine which allows you to bring something analog into the digital world. Tokenization enables the monetization of anything with value, whether tangible or intangible, from cryptocurrencies or utility tokens to capital markets products like bonds, fund structures, and other financial assets. Cash, for example, when tokenized, becomes stablecoins, and intangible assets like carbon credits or intellectual property can also be transformed into tokens. You might ask why. Because digital is far more multidimensional than holding onto a piece of paper or letting a real-world asset sit idle. Tokenization introduces a revolutionary way of how you own, hold, transfer, and trade assets. You can do a lot more with your idle assets, such as lend, borrow against, or connect tokenized assets to all of the DeFi applications and innovations coming out of Web3. Tokenization makes it easier to fractionalize an asset, allowing a single asset to be divided into multiple tokens, each representing different rights attached to that asset. Tokenization allows you to bundle and unbundle interests in a property. This means a tokenized asset can be broken down into different interests, each providing different sets of value, which can be transferred together or separately. Beyond just traditional ownership rights or title, tokenization allows you to monetize economic and financial rights, such as a share of profits or income from an asset, as well as utility rights, such as access to a service or membership rights.
So, asset tokenization is simply a way of representation of assets. Now, with blockchain, what it presents us is a new way to represent assets, and how assets are represented has always been evolving. At first, assets were represented using, leaves, stones, and when the printing press was invented, asset ownership was recorded over papers. And when databases came through, asset ownership was recorded in these databases. Now, when even smarter infrastructure like blockchain comes along, there's definitely a way to represent assets. So assets are now represented as programmable objects, which are otherwise called tokens. And these assets, like our phones, or the applications on phones that we call apps, have evolved to become much more smarter on a blockchain. What a typical blockchain infrastructure brings forward is standard structures to represent, or standard programmatic structures to represent assets. The cash flows, obligations, and rights of issuers, investors can be programmatically controlled, triggered, accessed, and hence tokenization becomes the most efficient form till date to represent assets. Now, how does it work? In a typical blockchain, environment, assets primarily are represented as programmable objects that interact with smart contracts, and they are also governed by different forms of smart contracts that control ownership, that manage payouts, and hence bringing in efficiencies to the way assets are managed. One of the other important aspects of tokenization is the overheads of recording ownership of assets is automated away. That means that an asset can be infinitely divisible and then recorded at a very minute level. So one of the things that is possible is assets being accessed at a fractional level. And when we say fractional level, it is possible for investors to buy $1 of an asset or $10 of an asset, rather than the conventional way of 1 unit of asset, costs you X amount of dollars. Because assets are infinitely divisible, it is possible for investors to aspire to buy $1 of assets. So we are simply changing how investors access it. The behavior is potentially different when basically accessing assets on a blockchain.